Rotella, find a seat. All right, you're not deputy superintendent yet. That ain't never happening. Not happening. Find a seat. Mrs. Dunn is the only one supporting that.
Tell me there's a height requirement.
What? No, I can't. I'm glad you were laughing so hard. Tommy, are we ready? Russ, ready? Good evening, everyone. We are now live streaming. Rick, I'm going to just do one thing in front of you, if that's okay. Good evening, everyone, and all of you who are watching at home. We're so glad that you're joining us at our Board of Education meeting on Thursday, March 21st, 2024. This is a work session in preparation for a public voting meeting at 7 o'clock. Members of the board, we have a very good presentation on our Ames Web elementary program, but what they're going to show you is the data. Then I'm going to ask to use my cell phone again to contact Becky Holliday, and I will tell you right now, and for those listening and watching, very few changes to the budget. We'll do a brief agenda review, and I know we'll be ready right at 7 o'clock to start our meeting and to greet any speakers on topics on the agenda or not. Before we jump into Rick and Kathy's presentation, I wanted to introduce a friend of ours from the Erie County School Boards Association. Is that right, David, still? New York State School Boards Association. David Lowry is now our Area 1 representative. David, just to give you a little bit of background on him, and I'm not looking because I know David very well for familiar reasons, but David was a former art teacher in Lockport. Of course, the first person he asked about is where's Cheryl Villardo. Nick, that's the first thing he asked. Secondly, David was the union president at Lockport. Next, David was a school board member at the same time in Iroquois. David was a school board president in Iroquois. David sleeps very little, but has retired and now is our Area 1 New York State School Board's representative. And I think he just wanted to drop by to say hello, but I'd like to invite him to the mic. And before he speaks, I just wanted to give you two insights that I shared. You know, we have a good attendance at the school boards. I believe this year it's in New York City, which is a favorite stomping ground if they have big enough conference presenting centers. And I think what's most interesting is, and David can tell you this or not, but the keynote speaker at the New York State School Boards this year is going to be an AI robot. So that should be interesting. On top of that, David has been very active with legislation around the Child Victims Act. And you know, we've talked quite frequently on an executive session around the Child Victims Act. I've briefed him on our status and talked to him about the importance of helping other school districts get legislation passed so that payments, et cetera, do not affect the children in front of us today. So I just wanted to give you that introduction, David. Welcome. You're welcome here all the time. I know you went to Star Point. Will be a little bit more exciting here, I'm sure, but I don't know if you wanted to say something.
Thank you and good evening. I first would like to thank the Niagara Falls City School Board because you were one of the first ones outside of Erie County that nominated me when I was running for the Area 1 Director, New York State School Board's Area 1 Director. When I retired from Lockport 5 years ago, I took on the position of NFCSD Executive Director and attended every board meeting within Erie County. Over the last 5 years, so I've been to about 150 board meetings.
How exciting.
Yeah, and what I like is I'm able to pick up things that other boards do, share that with what other boards do. So now I'm venturing out in my role as Area 1 Director, and I'm learning what the role is. My plan is to visit many of these school boards. I did want to report out that I don't know who your voting delegate was for the annual business meeting, but the board of directors are currently taking a look at that, and Scott Johnson from the Sweet Home School Board is the chair of that committee. They will have a recommendation to the board of directors by the June meeting so that whoever the voting delegate is will not have to sit through 8 hours of voting.
She is right here, and I think she would second that motion. Isn't that correct, Mrs. Dunn? It was quite a lengthy, as she reported back to the board. Yeah.
So if you have any thoughts and ideas, please either share them with me or Scott. And since he's chairing the committee, he will definitely make sure that those get back. We had a legislative meeting at Erie County School Boards and brought up quite a few ideas as well. So I think we're going to see some good changes and big changes.
Get your mic. No, I'll get your mic. I would never fire her, but I do recall Mrs. Dunn reporting back to the entire board that it was a long, arduous, slow, inefficient, I don't want to use words, Mrs. Dunn, inefficient process. And I'm glad to hear you're going to address that.
Yes. So if there's anything that I can ever do for you, please reach out to me. I'm here to serve you and look forward to working with you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
David, the best thing you do is keep bringing chocolate. It's the best thing that you could do, at least in my mind. Thanks, David, and we are fortunate in Niagara Falls. We are short a few members at this point in the meeting, but I believe, and I'm not just saying this, I've said it before, I believe our board conducts themselves with decorum, with dignity, and with students' interest first. And I would also like to, I'm sure we'll have more people come in, but I think that the same expectation set by our president is held true by the speakers in the audience when and if they address the audience. They have a right to their opinion and a right to their speech, but it's done with decorum because we're role models for kids and those that are watching. So if we don't model it, who will sometimes? And I don't mean that negatively for parents, but I would like to compliment our board and our board president for that decorum. I just would offer that if you have a shirt that needs to be dry cleaned, make sure you tag it because it frequently gets lost. Russ owns Capital Cleaners. It's free publicity, Russ.
That was a 15-second commercial or 30?
30. Thanks, Dave. Moving ahead, just to give you a little bit of an anticipatory set, each Wednesday, a principal and their team from a different school comes and presents to our central team. We do it for a couple of reasons. Number one, we want to make sure that the New York State commitments that we have for every school, even those that are not targeted schools, are being reviewed, followed, and looked at, if not twice a year, 3 times a year. We want to make sure that those commitments stay in line with the district's commitments. And we want the administrators to present their individual schools' data dashboard, which was a homegrown tool that allows all of us to get information on the progress, or lack of in some cases, that their schools are making. And it usually lasts 20 minutes to a half an hour. We've had a great round of presentations. But what I noticed was a very, very interesting report, at least from my perspective, because I don't live that every day like the principals do, like Rick does, like others do, like Kathy does. But this Ames Web data report, and I know we have some great coaches here with us as well, really gives an easy pictorial graph of, are we making progress by grade level? We can even drill down to teacher. Are we making progress by school? Where do we see challenges and difficulties? I thought it was such a good tool and a good pictorial description of some of the progress we're making and where we're making great progress and where we're making okay progress. So I asked Rick and Kathy to put a 10-slide presentation together for you, and I'd like to thank Rick and Kathy for doing this and leading this, and would call on Rick at this time to lead the presentation. Mr. Richard Angelo Corella. That's his middle name, Angelo. I didn't make it up. Sorry you have that in common with him, Rick.
Good evening, everyone. First off, I want to introduce a couple folks that are with me. First, obviously, you know Kathy Sullivan. She's our RTI District Director as well as our coordinator for pre-K. So Kathy's going to do the presentation with me as she lives this every day. And you are also aware that we were lucky enough this year to bulk up our primary enrichment program, our PEP program, by adding in lead teachers to each building, highly trained individuals who would be able to lead the interventionists and do all of the scheduling and monitoring of student progress as well as teaching. So we have 3 of those folks with us here tonight. So over here to my right, we have Lynn Pasick from 79th Street School, Karen Skronik from GJ Mann, and Maria Serio from Hyde Park. So I want to thank them for coming. We're going to show you a mid-year snapshot tonight. We are taking great pains to make sure that the investment that you've made in both personnel and resources are paying off. We're looking to make sure that our programming is being tweaked and monitored and or monitored and tweaked if needed. So we were looking at our mid-year data, wanted to break it down into a form to share with Mr. Laurie, and he suggested that we share it with you also. So a quick reminder of what we have been working on for the last year and a half. And the first thing is, within that time, we have updated all of our Tier 1 curricula and resources to align with New York State's Big 6 skills and competencies. You probably have heard these terms around for a while. Sometimes they're called the Pillars of Language Arts Instructions. At this time, the state is using the term the Big 6. As far as skills and competencies, those include oral language, phonological awareness, phonics, comprehension, vocabulary, and fluency. We've instituted in grades 2 through 5 trimester assessments across the board that mimic our New York State assessments that are given each spring in grades 3 through 8. Our instructional coaches are working with the principals and the grade levels in each building to do data analysis and corrective planning around the results of those assessments. So we really hone in on the skills that students need to be successful. We've also dedicated a considerable amount of resources to continuous training for teachers and for administrators and our TAs who serve as interventionists. All of the elementary principals are participating in a series of virtual staff development sessions from Wilson Language. It is for our phonics and phonological awareness skills program that is taught daily in our schools. It's called Foundations. You'll probably see that. You've heard me refer to it before, and you'll see that term peppered throughout this presentation. That the virtual workshops are so that we can all, and I participate myself, hone our skills in understanding the underpinnings of the program, how it should be taught so that we can evaluate its implementation and guide teachers and look at student data. Also, we've had done quite a bit of training with our teachers, concentrating on delivery of those lessons and administration and analysis of the unit assessments, which help them target the student skills that still have not been mastered for reteaching. We've also spoken before about launching the Wilson Language Facilitator Trainer model at 79th Street School, Bleneva Bond Primary, and Calfus Primary. What that means is that we have 3 PEP lead teachers. 2 of them are with us tonight, Lynn and Karen, and they are going above and beyond and getting extra training and coaching from the company so that they can become in-house or in-district experts for us. What that will enable us to do is have a sustainable training model. So they'll be able to coach teachers in classrooms and also lead staff development, train teachers in the science of reading and teaching phonics. Not only our current teachers, but our future teachers. And we have many new and novice teachers who need that extra layer of guidance and support. Kathy's going to go over with you a couple of our enhancements for Tier 2.
Good evening. Just to catch you up from our last time here, again, as Mr. Corella alluded to, we did follow through with our commitment to update our materials. Those are in use, and we're actually in the process of doing our inventory for our consumables for the 24-25 school year. Our durables will be in good shape. We will not need to replace those again. And we will continue with our training. That's been ongoing throughout the year. Our scheduling has allowed us to have people work together not only with teachers but with the facilitators so that they can get extra support if need be. One of the new things that we went deeper with this year with foundations was the unit assessments, and the facilitators really helped the teachers with getting the data into the tool. That's an online tool that allows the teachers to know exactly how to help their children. So the planning time allows them that extra time to get it into the system and then analyze it so they can plan for the future lessons and instruction. Mr. Corella mentioned that all three have gone through the certification. I spoke with both of their coaches. They will make their certification on time in June. They will be here one more time. They'll be in district again in April, and they will give the girls their final approval for June. But there are absolutely no concerns. All coursework, videos, both in and outside of the classroom have been done. The online coursework has been done, and it's been done with great expertise. Both of the coaches are thrilled with what the girls have done. We still are keeping all of our 9 interventions on our district menu. That's critical to meet the needs of all learners. We want to make sure that we are addressing the needs of every child in every grade across the district. Another positive thing with our staffing, as we have seen improvement this year, we've had some groups become extinct, which is a good thing, and we've had our interventionist actually move up to grade 5 to support grade 5 students. So that's actually a good thing. We were able to use the staff to support those students as well. The mandate for RTI is K-4, but because our students were moving in the right direction, we were able to change some schedules and get some support for 5th grade, which exceeds that mandate. So this is what Mr. Laurie was referring to as our tier transition chart. It's affectionately known as the Christmas tree report.
I made that up, because every time they present this report, I think of Christmas trees.
How can you not?
And I want everything to be green.
Yes, we all do. That is the goal. Green being tier 1, saying that children can function in the classroom either on or above grade level without any additional support or intervention. Now, this chart reflects what's currently happening in K. This was the winter benchmark that took place the week children came back. There's a window when they returned from Christmas break, and they took the assessment and this is what we saw. Now, as Mr. Laurie said, we meet on Wednesdays and see schools and their data, which is obviously more current than January, and some of these charts look different than they even did in January.
Right.
But having the winter benchmark in front of us for this presentation, just to show the growth that we saw district-wide in kindergarten, again, looking at our Tier 3 students who came into us in the fall, 248 students were in need of help. Currently in January, not exactly currently, but in January, that went down to 178. So that was a great success. And if you just glanced at this quickly and didn't even have to squint to read those numbers, looking at the red getting smaller is the goal. That's what we want, and we want that bottom portion, the green, to grow and get larger. Again, we'd love to see the whole tree green. The section in the middle is our Tier 2 section, which reflects those students who, if they're coming out of Tier 1, they're saying, I'm just starting to struggle. I'm just starting to struggle, catch me now, before I get into deeper trouble. But it also works in the reverse way, because if they were in Tier 3 in a lot of trouble and then went to Tier 2, that's a success. Because now they're saying, you helped me, I'm getting better, I'm working my way back down to Tier 1. So you have to look at it in both ways from both directions to fully understand that. So that's our kindergarten population. Our first grade shows that in the fall, in Tier 3, 300 and I believe that's 25, if I can read that correctly.
35.
35, I'm sorry, went to 258 in January. So that was significant. And our Tier 1, which is what we want, are currently at 147. Tier 2, in second grade, we had 75 in January, which in September was 100. And again, that could mean a couple different things, but clearly the Tier 1 is what is growing. We went from only 95 to 154, which is a great success at second grade. Third grade growth is not quite as large. Their difference here is that we had some things that were closer. It was a large number, Tier 3 in September, 157, still at 142. We saw this in January. We targeted this grade level. We now have smaller groups in grade 3, and we're keeping a much closer eye on it to make sure that we see more children moving from that Tier 3 down to Tier 2. This is where we're focusing now, and this gave us our indicator that this is where we need to focus. We know, zero in on this. And the last mandated grade is our grade 4. Again, nice evidence of Tier 1 students, but we still want to see growth. We don't want to become stagnant. We want to make sure that these children continue to grow. In September, Tier 1 hit 174. In January, 210. So there's nice growth, but again, those Tier 3 numbers are still not anywhere near where we want them, especially at that grade level. It's significant that they get out of that Tier 3 level because now they're not learning to read, they're reading to learn. So we need to focus on that grade level as well.
it's interesting to note too, that at grades 3 and 4, these are the students who were most severely impacted by the interrupted instruction during the pandemic. They missed consistent foundational skill instruction. Some of them were fully remote for a year. Some of them were in the hybrid model when they were in those crucial grades of kindergarten and first. So we're still dealing with the ramifications of that. So we have to continue to support those students. This next chart I know is busy and it's very difficult to see in general. So I'm not going to go through it. What I wanted to do here was show the percentage of difference in movement between the tiers. So if you look, for example, at grade 2, this is ideally what we want to see over time. We want to see the percentage of students that are receiving the most assistance and most in need of assistance in tier 3 shrinking or going down. We want to see the same thing happening in tier 2, and we want to see the number of students or the percentage of students at that grade level in tier 1 increase.
So Rick, we want to see negative, negative, positive.
Correct.
That's how I think of it. Negative, tier 3, negative, tier 2, positive, tier 1.
Yes, and you can see here that when you get to 3rd and 4th grade, the percentage of change is in the single digits.
Right.
So it's not as rapid as we would like to see. Yes, Russell?
Going back to second grade, the tier 1 positive 24%, are all of those coming out of 3 and 2, or are they new ones entering tier 1?
They could be kids that it's really a combination because it's all of the students at that grade level.
Right.
So they could be new students who entered the district who weren't screened at the baseline, some of them. They could be students, more than likely they're students who moved from tier 2 into tier 1.
Thought of the percentage, like, we have 10% new students.
That's an interesting question because when we speak to the principals every Wednesday, one of the things that they typically list as a challenge at the elementary level is the number of new students that come in and out of our schools on a regular basis. And it particularly in the middle of the year.
Yep.
So there's a cutoff point at which new students, for example, their results would not be counted against us when we give state assessments because they haven't been with us long enough. But that isn't a very comfortable margin of error. So we do have transiency issues. We also, and you've heard us talk about this before, and we can do more reporting on it with you, but we also need to acknowledge what chronic absenteeism does to these numbers.
Yep.
And what we have to, what we continue to do on our pupil service side to help families and students come to school regularly. I can't understate the impact of poor attendance.
Please don't understate that because that's what we're seeing. So on each student, there's a Christmas tree on each student, and there's a correlation between red and yellow and attendance, a very clear correlation. The Christmas tree doesn't move on those that have chronic absenteeism. Russ, it's a pretty insightful statement. Okay, go ahead.
And so just to sum up a couple of next steps, Kathy mentioned extending services up to grade 5. I would like very much to be able to extend services up to grade 6 next year. The original model included grade 6 before we had some tough budget years in the mid-2000s. So I would like to restore it. We'll see how that goes. It's a goal. It's an aspirational goal. We want to solidify our instruction in phonics for the 24-25 school year, so we're going to continue what we are doing in this year. I will be adding an additional foundations facilitator to be trained and assigned and have that person in a 4th demonstration school. That will enable us to have 4 individuals who can service all of the 7 elementary schools that, where primary skills are taught. Because all of these ladies do additional instruction as well. They're not just foundations trainers, they are PEP lead teachers, they deliver interventions. So I want to lighten the load a little bit and have folks know where they're going and have targeted schools and grade levels to support, so everyone knows where they need to go or who they need to call to get that extra help. We'll continue training for all staff. We'll continue to reach out to parents and share more information about our curriculum and how they can help their children at home and what they should expect to see and hear about from their child. And we're going to create an end-of-year satisfaction survey for our for our teachers in grades K to 4. We want their perceptions of how this year has gone with the enhanced services and training. And as we begin the grades 6 through 8 curriculum renewal that is coming up, I'm going to start it in a few weeks actually, we will be focusing on interventions for students at that grade level. We currently do have interventions for students at that grade level, but we really do need to pay more attention to it because we have more students in need of help based on the interrupted schooling from the pandemic. And when you're dealing with older students who have been unsuccessful for a number of years, intervention becomes that much more difficult to engage them in. So we'll be looking at more innovative ways, both programmatic and otherwise, to address the special needs of students who are still struggling at these grade levels when they really should be reading to learn rather than still learning to read.
Before we take any questions from the board, I wanted to make a couple of comments, ask Ray to go back a couple slides, then we'll take comments, but I'd also like to make a couple political comments as well, too. First of all, there is nothing that is more important than the Tier 1 instruction. Tier 1 is where it's at. And if we're able to keep kids learning and growing at Tier 1, that's the best way to do it. That's all that phonemic awareness and all the things that Rick and Kathy put up on the first slide. The reason that the next presentation I'm going to make is to ask you to use reserves and not make cuts in our staff and our programs is because we've got to get the Christmas tree full. So this is for the ARP auditors. This is for all those auditors that are driving Becky, who's on the phone now, I just called her, and the financial team crazy. This is what we did with our ARP money. We put the money into those programs, the Tier 2 and Tier 3 programs, not only in ELA, but in math, because Rick and Kathy can show you a similar report in math. That's number 2. Number 3, it's just unconscionable to me that when the ARP money came and when the relief came on foundation aid, I don't want more ARP money, but I thought it would have been much wiser to allow us to spread that ARP money out over more than 2.5 years. Because now it's cut off, and now it puts the burden back on our budget. And I understand the political reason why you want to rush that money out, but if you really want to help kids, the right thing to do would be to audit districts to see what they're doing with that money during COVID times, and I think that was the 4th grade slide you showed, or the 3rd grade slide. They're making progress, but then cut it off, force a district to take over, use their reserves, like I hope we'll do, make cuts, which I am not recommending, or to raise the tax levy. That thinking doesn't align with what's happening with real kids who are in front of real teachers. So I'll leave it there. I also want to tell you that what I'd like to add to that last slide, Rick and Kathy, is I think it's not fair to the board and the public if you don't come back in June or May, whenever the third iteration of the testing is. Because I think what we have to see is, and where I think this is a powerful tool, and where I think that this is much better, and I've been reading all the articles, this is a much more indicative growth example for kids than a New York State test on 2 days in May. That you see if those Christmas trees are more green, less yellow, and yes, less red. That would be an indication to how our programs are working, if kids are growing, and if they're not, you should call us on it. But I think what you'll find when you come back in, when I ask them to come back in June, if that's an appropriate time to get the results, you're gonna see Christmas trees that are ready for stars and lights and tinsel and garland. Now, we're not gonna be all the way there, and that's what my objection is with the foundation aid formula and the ARP formula. But I want the ARP auditors to look at what we did with our money and look what more we could have done if spread out for a longer time. I will open up for board questions, but I also want to tell you that something that occurred this week is that we began conversations with colleges, and particularly 2 of them, Niagara University and Buff State, which are feeder programs for our teachers, to show the future teachers that they've got to be ready to hit the ground running and be able to do this kind of teaching at all levels. I can't stress how differentiation of learning is so critical. And I really want to thank the coaches that are here and the coaches that are not here for their work, along with the teachers. The most important part, the teacher at that moment instructing kids. So this really ties in so nicely to our next presentation, but I'll open questions for Rick and Kathy.
No, I just agree with Mark. I'd like to see the final results of the statistics for the increase in reading level by the end of the year.
We will.
Thank you.
I have an unfair question. When do you think the effects of COVID will be done? Just, it's not, there's no answer. The workforce is getting worse instead of better. What are you seeing in school?
Well, I'm not a social
Honestly,
scientist.
just your
You
guess.
know what, I'm not a social scientist, but I would say that it's not going to happen anytime soon, because there's a lot of emotional and mental health needs that have come out of it that affect learning, but learning loss isn't the only issue that we're dealing with.
I agree with Rick. I do 70% of the time agree with Rick. I agree.
I'm trying, that tree will be up to 80 by June.
Okay, by June, his green is going to be 80. That's a little goal we have for each other. But he really makes a good point, because it's not just the tier 1, 2, and 3 on the academic side. And the fact, auditors beware of this statement, it's the social, emotional, social workers, counselors, psychologists side that we spent money on that runs parallel to this track. And would you agree, Rick?
Yes.
And the auditors, who, must not have anything to do because they're looking at whether we put a T instead of a G in there. I want them to know that this is, I probably should wait till the audit's done so I don't get really dinged more. Sorry, Becky. But I just want everyone to know this is how we spend our money on. And this is what we're doing to improve kids' learning and to improve kids' academic success. Good questions. I guarantee you, probably June, Nick, we'll have this. We'll have the Christmas trees out. We'll call it Christmas in June. How's that? All right.
Hey, Mark, could we have a presentation from our psychologists, all of our mental health people?
Yeah.
Just
Yes.
where were we, where are we, and how do we get to where we need to be?
I think it's a great presentation, Russ, and we're streamlining some forms and some processes and some family support centers. So I am appreciative of that, and I will make sure that we get that on there.
And please, those questions were not critical.
No.
It's amazing what COVID did.
It's our way
Yep.
to the families of our children.
Yep.
So it goes beyond our children, it goes to their families, and are they healing, and how are they healing to help our children?
Yeah. Interesting. Look, COVID, it's over. We can't use that as an excuse anymore. It is what it is. It's over. Forget about it. I don't know, I'm going to be retired before the next pandemic in 90 years, but it's over. It's never going to happen again. So now all we can do is attack the issue with our best thinking and our best work. So thank you, guys. Really great. Let me just call and see dialing for, I'm not on my cell phone calling. I'm not calling Sal Constantino, who calls me 20 times a day. I'm calling to see, Becky, are you on the phone?
I am.
All right.
Evening.
Good evening. Becky's on the phone. Say hello, Becky.
Hello, board members. I'm sorry I'm not there.
Well, we wish you well, and I'm going to ask you if you would, again, give me a grade and correct anything that I misspeak about, and most importantly, add anything that I haven't fully covered. So the format for our budget has been the same for the 8 years I've been here, and it continues to be the same. Not much has happened in a week. I want to pause by thanking you, giving us until April 11th that's 3 good weeks. Now, the New York State budget is due April 1st. I am not optimistic, and I try to be a half-full guy. I'm not optimistic that the day Easter or the day after Easter, the state's going to finish a budget. April 11th gives us a better shot, I think. Ray, if you would focus on the revenues. In terms of the revenues, I want to make 2 points out here, 2 things to point out. Foundation aid, we have not increased it. See that number, Ray's green boxed? Last year, that number in the green box was $13 million. $13 million. This year, the green number is 3.6, number one. I'm hopeful, and I read again today that in the legislative one-house budgets, they're asking for $4 billion more for education. I'm hopeful. The BOCES aid, I think you know we've maximized that based on the purchases that Ray and Becky are going to make. I don't think there'll be much change there. Excess cost aid, Cheryl Mateer and Becky continue to work on that to drive that number down lower so the parenthetical number gets lower, which will help it. If it's, nothing else has changed. If you'd scroll up, Ray. And stop, one more, right there. Look at the blue line. We're projected right now, next year, to receive $183,784,639. That, if we got that much money and had the expenses match that, we'd be done and happy and over with. Ray, would you go to the other side? Nothing has changed on the appropriation side. Nothing has changed with wages for any of the bargaining units. The additional $1 million is there for subs, the outside services, the medical director. The attrition rate was cut back a little bit. However, I want to say something on this pink number, and it's the charge that you gave us. On your board report this evening, there are some retirements. Maria is working to ascertain retirements as soon as they can come in. What we promised to do on this number is to evaluate every position versus the absolute need for that position and make an evaluation. Maria did some preliminary work yesterday that she sent to me that will hopefully make that parenthetical number go up. This is not a layoff of anybody. This is not a job reduction of anybody. This is a job that we feel we love to have. There's a retirement, and we'll do it by attrition. Right now, that number's low. Moving ahead, I'll just lament one thing. The lamenting, again, is in the active health insurance. I've never seen, in my time, of 8 years as superintendent and budget, a 9.5% increase with our plan for active people. It's a contractually negotiated one that we have to honor and that, you know, I live under, we all live under, so it is what it is. Yes, sir.
I'll address this to you two gentlemen on the left and the right. That 9.5% increase, what is your thoughts and what are you guys hearing for the year after? Are they gonna keep popping us with that 9.5%?
Well-
Or do you think it will equal out and be back down to its usual 2-3% type?
Well, I know that Russ may have an opinion, but I also know that Maria is on the board. And I'm going to put you on the spot, Maria, for that question, because you would know better than I.
And that's a heck of an increase, so I mean, we're shell-shocked by it, right? I mean, it's natural.
I am. She's probably going to tell you no. I'm a little shell-shocked. I thought it was going to be 5%. Maria, I don't know what you think.
Well, I think a couple of things. I think that it's very hard to predict where insurance rates are going to take us because depending on the usage, the claims, and the amount of the cost for the pharmaceuticals, this number can vary significantly. What I do think, though, is that we are now in the closer to where we should be in terms of a rate increase, and that potentially the rate increase that we may have had last year and the year before was low because we were trying to keep those rates low, and in doing so, weren't really facing the fact that they should have been a little bit higher, right?
Earlier on.
Earlier on. And then this increase wouldn't have felt so big if we had gradually, now I say we, I mean the trust, but we're all in the trust, it's a labor management trust. So if we had gradually been increasing those rates all along, we might not have felt this big increase this year. And I do think that there is one person on the other side of Mr. Pareto who had been beating that drum for quite a while.
Right.
And I have to say that when you look at a 9.5% increase in 1 year, you have to say, gosh, Mr. Petrozzi, what are you, clairvoyant? What were you seeing that everybody else maybe wasn't seeing?
So there's the feather. Now here comes the hammer. Russ?
Right.
You have a couple of things that are going on. Insurance is, like Maria said, is somewhat unpredictable. It's becoming more predictable, and I'll give you an example. The weight loss drugs. Everybody wants the weight loss drugs.
You mean the old Ozempic or whatever?
No, Ozempic's not a
No,
weight loss
Ozempic.
drug. That's a diabetic drug. Wegovy is the one, but Wegovy, if you watch TV tonight, you'll see 10 commercials.
Yeah, and the Jardians, is that one?
Jardian's
Because everybody
a
dances
Jardian's a
after they take
diabetic.
Jardians.
Oh, we show it during a football game.
Yeah, huh? Is that a weight loss drug? If you take Jardians, you become a good dancer. Did you ever see the commercials?
Those people can really swing. I'll
They
tell you.
can. I can't dance. So I thought that Jardians was a dance drug. If you ever watched the commercial, that's what I'm thinking. I'm sorry, Russ. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I just wondered if it was a dance drug. Go ahead.
No, not at all. It's just, that's reading into the equation. I do believe in earlier years, the plan did not do what they should have done. I told them, matter of fact, all the meetings said they're raising 2%. The big boys, the insurance companies were doing 10%. There was somewhere at 4 or 5% that would have worked. Medical inflation, I think is 6% this year, if I remember correctly. I think we're in for some tough times ahead. Now, in this number, in the meeting that we had with New York 44, they are using reserves.
Right.
This number would have been worse.
Right. I think they're using, if I remember, $2.5 million worth of reserves. From the meeting we had, they're even with a 9.5% increase on a $59 million plan, they only have revenues of $57 million. They're using 2 to 2.5% of their reserves, which is what we're doing, and it's going to hurt in the long run for us. I guess it's kick the can down the road thing too.
Well, on the positive side, the Blues and IH, Independent Health, those numbers were 15, 16, 17%.
Yeah.
So that's the positive side of this. Medical insurance is a nightmare. The drugs are a nightmare. It's all got to be revamped, and it probably will not happen in our lifetime.
Wow.
Thank you for your time, sir.
Yep. Moving on, if you'd scroll, Ray. So there's the increase. It's a 5.23 budget-to-budget increase. We need $190,992,049 to run the district next year, which leaves us with a gap as of today, and we have 3 weeks to go, of $7,207,400, $7.2 million budget gap. I just like that. Becky updated the CPI, it's 3.6, but when you have a 9.5% medical increase, it's hard to stay up with the CPI. We're almost now a 1.5 below it. So the gap, the problem is 2.7. There's only 3 ways. Well, there's only 4 ways I know how to fix that gap. And Becky, if you do, tell me. One way would be to raise the property tax levy. We're in a negative cap situation. I don't think you, me, anyone would want to go there. We haven't done it in my 8 years. I don't think you want to. That solution is out. The second solution is to cut our expenses. Rick and Kathy just did a really super job explaining a microcosmic part of the budget, but it shows what our kids need. And I would be loath to even think to reduce programs and people. Once again, I'll parenthetically say that's an unsustainable model. The third model would be to ask you to do what we're going to ask you to do. It would be to go to use your reserves, use your rainy day fund. I think it's raining super bad, super duper bad right now. And that's what I'm going to ask you to do. And the fourth way would be to take the budget, go to the casino, put it on a number, and hope. But I don't think that's prudent either, nor would the controller like that. So here's what we're presenting to you. You have done an outstanding job maintaining reserves. We've gone through what these mean, debt services on our capital projects. That would have happened no matter what. The Greenway funds, you know we didn't use it for 2 years, and why we're using it. We're going to slide workers' comp over. We've got money there. ERS and TRS. EBLARS is to pay for terminal leave of those that are retiring. And that $1.8 million today is the use of unrestricted fund balance. It was always at 4%. My hope and wish is that more foundation aid and carryover money from this year's budget to next will get that. We will replenish the 1.8 first, and I think we're going to be able to do that. Becky may disagree. And then any other additional money beyond the 4%, we're going to put in those other reserve funds, and that would come when Drescher and Malecki are here in November. If you move up, Ray, a little bit, no, down. I want you to know, keep going. So, budget considerations, and we always like to make a box of what we would like to do if we had the money. Obviously, we're not going to be able to afford to put tablets on buses this year, even though we're going to a new bus routing system. You know the CVA claims are not budgeted. We've got phenomenal attorneys who will keep it that way. Pressure is on, Jim, Angelo, pressure's on. There is also something else I want to mention here that's not in the budget, and I'm not going to get into specific names or reasons. Something that we've been doing, and you'll see that we're doing a lot, is we often put short-term contracts on the board minutes. Many of those great short-term contracts are things that are good for kids. They're not included in this budget. They're not included in this budget. I'm hoping that we'll be able to find some dollars here and there, write another grant, but those short-term things are not in this budget. we collectively made a conscious effort to keep the people and programs whole. And that's what we did. So, in summary, before Becky checks in, I really completely feel sorry for districts, and I just looked at 4 of them. One has got 46 layoffs, 26 current job holders, 20 by attrition. The next district has 19 layoffs. The next district has 23 layoffs. And the city of Buffalo is in the hundreds with their layoffs. In one district that I looked at, I don't want to name it, but they have 19 layoffs. They're using $5 million of their reserves, and they push their tax to the tax cap. Now, the misnomer of the tax cap is that it's a little bit more than 2%, because that's a misnomer, but they went right to the tax cap, they went right to the reserves, and they went right to cutting 19 jobs. It's not a good picture. David, I know you're here. One of the problems with our budget is, if you could scroll up even more, Ray, or down. Yeah, keep going. If you look at, Ray, would you box the increase in the tax levy one? Look at that one. It's bolded. That's why the voters have to approve our budget at 60%, because that's a negative tax cap number. That's a negative 1.7 million. Why? Because, and Becky helped me here, we have pilots that figure into it, often out of our control. We have debt service payment because we keep our buildings in good shape. And that's why we determined, let's use that Greenway money, because that contributes to the tax cap. It's going to be negative no matter whether we use it or not. Let's use that pool of reserves. So I guess what I would impress upon our Area 1 director that's listening is, and we have lobbied for this year after year, at least my 8 years, when they created the tax cap situation, I don't believe they ever contemplated that a school district could get into a negative tax cap situation. And that's where we're at. Now, I'm comfortable in saying that our community recognizes that and will understand the 60%, but that's just bad figuring. And then you ride a policy that doesn't even work and force a district like ours that has not raised taxes once but in 25 years to have a negative tax cap. I don't understand the thinking behind that. Rebecca, what did I miss?
You didn't miss anything, and that's true. I think the negative tax cap calculation was an unintended consequence of that formula. I really do. And it comes into play where, like many districts, we don't have the tax base to maintain our capital projects spending, and we get a lot of aid on it. That works against us in this situation when we have no intention of raising taxes or raising the levy anyway. So I think there needs to be more taken into consideration in the formula, or at very least, if it's a negative, that it should just like revert back to a zero.
Right. What about pilots, Becky?
Pilots are counted against us in that calculation. So is the use of the Greenway money, and the fact that we were given that premium on our debt, which is what we're applying towards the payment as it was meant to be. And it just seems like unfair that that's the case, because in essence we paid a higher interest rate on that debt, and they offset it with the use of a premium. So that really is just to help us maintain a stable debt payment, but again, it works against us in this calculation.
Area 1 director, they've got to look at 2 formulas: the tax cap formula and the foundation aid formula. It's just not working, not just for us, but for schools. And then somehow the governor figured, oh, there's a formula for education. We're just going to ignore that this year after we settled the lawsuits last year, and I'm going to work off of the CPI. I just am a little befuddled. So, next steps. Between now and the 11th, we will continue to refine and revise every number. We certainly will work with Maria on making those, I'll ultimately make and recommend those decisions on the attrition cuts. And if all goes well, if there's something significant, I will call you each by phone. If there's something hugely significant, I'll ask for a special meeting. But I'm pretty comfortable that we've led you to a good place. On April 11th, we will start with a final budget presentation. We will present to you the property tax cap report card that has to be mailed the next day, and we'll give you our best thinking. And right now, members of the board and the public, our best thinking is not to raise the tax levy, not to reduce programs or people, but to use the rainy day fund and hope that more foundation aid comes in. We get a little bit of a higher stacking rate on our aid, and that we continue to scrub the expenses to narrow the amount of carryover we have to use. Questions?
Comment.
Yep.
I'm looking at several things here. I think one of the problems is inflation is caught up. Our wages have gone up this year because of new contracts due to inflation that's been affecting us for the past 5 years. So that should stabilize over the next 3 or 4 years.
I agree, Russ, yeah.
Second of all, I do support spending reserves because that's what reserves are for, a rainy day. But reserves cannot carry us through a monsoon.
No.
This is an unsustainable situation. We got a year, maybe 2, maybe 2.5, 3. I think we have to start planning our next year's budget right away. Area 1 director, this cannot sustain. Eventually, it's going to be massive cuts, massive layoffs, and a downgrading of education. They need to spend their money on the people that are here, our children, our people, and I won't get into my politics. But it's got to be said, and it's unfortunate. We have to take care of these young people because they are going to be our future. And we have to tell our politicians, and I really mean that, you know, we're spending billions of dollars for people that are not here, they're coming here, it's not right. That's my comment.
Anything else? Becky?
Yes, sir.
Stellar job as per usual.
Well, I thank you for taking us through the budget so eloquently.
There's a raise coming for you. I'm going to take it out of Earl's salary. Don't say that too loud. No one's listening. I'm going to take it from Earl Smeal's salary. Thanks, Becky.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Bye-bye. Yeah, Russ, you're right. If we did this next year, that would be 10 million
10 million, that's 19, that's 18, 17 million.
in 2 years.
2 years, and the next year will be 12 million.
And then we're done. Then we have no more. That's not a way to run a district.
You know, maybe the state government were thinking, you know, well, there was this shortage in teachers, and this is how they're going to equal it out
I hope not.
by cutting the heck out of everything.
I hope not.
Because all you're hurting are the children.
I hope not. I know that spoke to Michael Rebell, who had the lawsuit last year that helped get the foundation aid formula funded in New York City, and we all benefited from it. Mr. Rebell has got some plans he's going to wait and see what happens, and then he's got some plans for us, and as does our Small City School District Coalition, and we're hoping that this supports our lawsuit. You know, as Nick, you point out all the time, that lawsuit has been in place since 2010, 11, whatever it's been. Right, and we won, but right now what they can't agree about is how to rectify it. Well, the first step is to get rid of the negative tax cap, and the second step is to look at this foundation aid formula, and the third step is to give us back what they owe us from the years that we didn't get paid. So I'll stop there. If there's nothing else, I'd like to call up the agenda for a review as our final topic before 7. So, here we go. Not much has changed since we met a week ago and since we've been talking about this throughout the week. Right down to the certificated and classified reports, Maria, 406 and 407. What do you got? Let's stop there, and let's have Maria talk about the personnel reports first.
Okay, if you'll look at the classified report, you'll see right there on the first page, we have some asterisks. And that is of an assistant child care associate at Maple Avenue, a part-time cleaner at Abbott. And we have their resignations. Then if you flip over to page 2 of 5, you'll see that we have hired a probationary part-time assistant cook at Head Start. That was a position that we'd been looking to fill for a while. Beginning on page 3 of 5, Roman numeral there, 7, you'll see that we have some folks who are going from probationary to permanent. Those are safety officers, a special education classroom associate, and a pre-K classroom associate. Then turning to page 5 of 5, you'll see the addition there is of after-school programming for a pre-K associate. Are there any questions about the classified report? All right, moving on to the certificated report. And I think you're going to see the majority of the changes on the certificated report are under the schedule. So page 3 of 7, we added additional Schedule B, and I'm just looking for the rest of my asterisks. I think there's another posting that we added to towards the back of the personnel report. They're on page 5 of 7. I didn't really. I just take it really slow every time because I know Mr. Laurie likes to point it out.
Me?
He won't let me say little stars.
Me? Asterisk?
Yeah. It's not my favorite word.
Anything else, Maria?
No, I'm all set. Thank you. No, not this evening. Just the certificated and the classified as they are here.
Certificated numbers are what are the numbers, 1 through?
Looks like 1 through 19? No, I'm sorry, 14. I'm sorry, 14. And then on the classified, it looks like 1 through 11. 11. Okay, thank you.
Moving on with the short-term contracts, the first one is, we talked about all these last week. That is for a Black History celebration that happened at Bond last month. Number 2 is to pay Open Buffalo. We completely missed this one. This is last year. We haven't paid them. This is going to allow you to pay them for the work they did at Niagara Falls High School. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 are all for the Week of the Young Child activities once we return from Easter break. Number 12 is for a celebration of Black History again, and that was also, I believe, at Belliniva Bond. At number 13, reminder to everyone, our Dr. Martin Luther King celebration, April 16th. We're having the Inner City Bedlam Troupe perform as our musical guest along with others in district, and that's on the 16th, and that's a short-term contract to bring the group in. They have also performed a few times at Harry Abbott School, so we know how good they are. If you move on, no unfinished business. Okay, 1 through 5 are all to reset the calendar. So I'll quickly go through these. April 11th is our first April meeting. That's a special meeting because at 7 o'clock you have to vote on the budget and the property tax cap report card. The next meeting is 2 weeks later on a Thursday. It's a regular voting board meeting. 03, I believe you agreed last week to move the meeting from the 9th to the 8th, which is a Wednesday. in order to accommodate a celebration that many are going to on the 9th. That's a Wednesday meeting. That meeting is also a public hearing on the board, on the budget. So I'm hoping and praying Becky will be back. She'll go through those 23 slides. Anyone in the audience could speak on this budget that hopefully you will adopt on the 11th. On the 16th, I asked for a favor, and I really appreciate you moving that meeting to Thursday the 16th. I'll be out of town the following week, so I sincerely appreciate the board doing that. That's a Thursday. Don't forget you have an 8 o'clock meeting on the 22nd, just one, I believe it'll be a brief 10 or 15-minute meeting on the 22nd, but that's already been there. And then 6:05, we moved to accommodate graduation. Your meeting was originally scheduled for Thursday the 27th, but that's also graduation day at the high school. So we know that Thursday, June 27th, the weather is going to be 68 degrees, a slight wind out of the northwest, 5 miles an hour, and it'll be a beautiful evening for graduation outside. That was my best attempt at Patrick Hammer. That's what all the meetings are changed for. 6:06 through 6:08 are for Judy's election inspectors, backup election inspectors, machine appointments. Anything changed there, Beck? No. Oh. 6:09 is to appoint Dr. Philip Savagio as our Director of School Health Services. In the place in front of you, you have an updated resolution that the attorneys had gone through and made some corrections to. The basics of that resolution, I think, held. There was just some language that our attorneys wanted to clean up, and that's to approve Dr. Savagio. 6:10 is a $3,400 resolution, and the purpose of that resolution is to help our ENL families with, and our ENL teachers with professional development and interpretation services between now and the end of the school year. 6:11 is a grant. It's actually an entitlement that we are receiving from the federal government. Those in the audience may have heard of this. This is called Title I. Title I is based on poverty and population. We will receive, if you accept this grant, $5,992,116. That would be for 6/12. 6/11 is the grant that I don't want to get again, but it's for $300,000 to support 3 targeted schools. Correct, 3, Rick? For 3 targeted schools. That's $300,000. Why do I say I don't want the money? I don't want to have any targeted schools. That's why I don't want the money. Okay, 6:13 is for a change order. We talked about this last week. I thought we needed to get a butterfly. I thought we really needed to get a butterfly valve installed at the high school. I looked over the valves and I thought, boy, I think this could use a butterfly valve.
Absolutely.
So we took this to Mr. Petrozzi, and that's for a change order. Funding is through the American Rescue Plan funds. 6:14, Danforth. 6:15, D.V. Brown. Those are American Rescue funds. Remember, one is to pay retainage. 6:16 is American Rescue funds. And then 6:17, Scrufari, and I know this is Scrufari, Mr. Bilardo, you asked this. The window film starts Monday. I think we gave you the 4 schools. That's window film and other things they're doing. Plumbing is a small amount. A lot of work underground on plumbing at the greenhouse. Fry has been working very well, Mr. Pareto. Earl, any problems with Fry?
No, so far so good.
I stay on them pretty good, don't I?
Yes, you do. I just gotta check their list.
You check their list. I want you to. I stay on. They've been doing a good job. 6:20 is Stark. Ray does a good job on that. That's for a lot of the technology contracting. 621, that is to put in the boiler the new boiler at Cataract. It's $7,800. Their work will start next week? No, it'll be sometime, it won't be very near the end of the school year. Okay. 621 and 22, you know we broke up the air conditioning at Gaskill and LaSalle into 2 contracts. I walked Gaskill yesterday, and I'm really satisfied. The ceiling tiles are out in the hallways, and they've done a good job tying things up so it doesn't look, it doesn't look out of place. It doesn't look great, but now they're able to run that piping conduit. That's what the payment for. 624 is to accept Head Start's $2.4 million to run Head Start, and that's not an increase, but as Richard rightly pointed out, we're hoping for a cost of living increase on that forum. No policies. Scroll, Jude. Coming up, April. Those are 2 budget. The budget will be number 1. Then a hearing on the ARP funds. And 625. We're going to add something on 625. I'm going to ask Maria to give you an update on the workplace violence policy on the 25th. And that she'll be talking, we've had continual safety committee meetings on the workplace violence policy, and Maria and Stan have headed that, so I want them to give you a presentation on that on the 25th. That's it. Those are the meetings. Any questions, board members? It's really not it's the calm before the storm in a lot of ways with resolutions and personnel. Anything else, Rob? Having said that, I think, with your permission, Mr. Pareto, Ms. Dunn, Mr. Bilson, it's nice to see you. Clean shaven, looking good. Can we take a 10-minute break? You okay with that? 10-minute break?
Yeah, 10-minute break.
I hope we'll start right at 7 o'clock. Sophia.
Come on up, Sophia. Can I use your microphone?
She gonna lead us? Come on over here. Come here with me. Come over here, you'll be on TV. Stand next to the important guys. Right? Oh, we don't fight. If they bit, I would have left here a long time ago.
Do we do it right now?
No, wait a minute. We'll tell you.
Thank you. Could everyone please stand for the pledge to the flag? Sophia, would you lead us, and please give us your name and your teacher and school.
Sophia?
My name is Sophia, and I go to GJ Man, and my teacher is Miss Harris.
Second grade.
Yes.
Second grade?
Yeah.
Would you please start the pledge of the flag for us?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now, come on, folks, give her a big hand. Thank you, Sophia. Thank you for helping me out. Okay, next we'll have a prayer by Mrs. Dunn, please.
Okay, let us all pray. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, we praise you, Lord, and we thank you for the opportunity to meet today. As we listen and learn what needs to be done to ensure good educational opportunities for children in our district. Bless our teachers who inspire and guide their students. Bless parents to support our efforts for the betterment and successful future of their children. Bless us and help us to be more attentive, patient, and diligent to understand the needs of all children. Bless the people who care and work for us to achieve higher goals, purpose for our children. Bless our community and country that we may have unity, peace, and prosperity. And Lord, we ask a special healing for our colleague, Jimmy Kansimi. Please send your loving angels to surround him. And as always, God, we thank you for your blessings. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thanks, Clara. Nice job. Judy, call the roll, please.
Mr. Bass is excused.
Correct.
Mr. Wilson?
Here.
Mr. Kinsemi is excused. Mr. Capizzi, also excused. Mrs. Dunn?
Here.
Mr. Cadella? Do we have Mr.
Excused also?
Do we have Mr. Cadella remotely? No,
No,
okay.
excused.
Mr. Pareto?
Yes.
Mr. Velardo? And Mr. Petrosi?
Yes.
5 present.
Thank you. We'll start by our oral communications. I have one agenda item, and sorry I can't read it. It's Mrs., I don't know, did anyone sign the sheet, the first sheet for agenda items? No. I'm sorry, I cannot read it. Judy couldn't read it. All right, well, when we have somebody that I don't call, we'll figure that out. Sorry for that. We'll start with recommended actions from the superintendents of schools, 401 and 402 together. 401 is the minutes, and 402 is budget transfer number 8. Motion, please.
Aye.
Thank you. Tony? Rob, questions? Call a roll, please.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you. Approval of the following bids, 403. Do we have any bids, Judy?
We do not, sir.
No bids. I'll take that off. 404, Treasurer's Report. 405, Budget Status Report. They're both received and filed. Moving on to the Personnel Report, Certificated, 4.06, 1 through 14. Thank you, Nick. On the motion, second, Rob. Questions? Call the roll, please.
Mr. Bilson? Yes. Mrs. Dunn? Yes. Mr. Pareto?
Yes.
Mr. Velardo? And Mr. Petrosi?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. 407, Personnel Report Certificated, items 1 through 11, please. Thank you, Rob. Second. Thank you, Tony. Questions? Call the roll, please.
Mr. Wilson? Yes. Mrs. Dunn? Yes. Mr. Pareto?
Yes.
Mr. Velardo? Yes. Mr. Petrosi.
Yes. 5 yes, thank you. 408 and 409 together, please. 408, Committee on Special Ed, and 409, Committee on Preschool Special Ed, please. Thank you, Rob. Second, Nick. Questions? Call the roll, please.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Thank you, Judy. That's 5 yeas. We have several short-term contracts. Number 1 is Yasulo Black History Month celebration. Open Buffalo Senior Student is number 2. Number 3 is Dwayne Abel Draw. Number 4, Aquarium of Niagara. Number 5, Kelly Imes Feeling Rock. Number 6, Crystal Playfair Prehistoric. Number 7, Neil Turvey Play. Number 8, Kelly Imes Feeling Rock again. Number 9, Kelly Imes Feeling Rock. Number 10, Buffalo Museum of Science. Number 11, Kelly Imes Feeling Rock again. And 12, Zuzu Aerobatics. And 13, Paul Cimarron Inner City Bedlam. That is 13 contracts. Just so you know, most of them are small. There's no real large ones there. Motion, please. Nick?
Second.
Tony, questions? Call the roll, please.
Mr. Bilson? Yes. Mrs. Dunn? Yes. Mr. Pareto?
Yes.
Mr. Velardo? Yes. And Mr. Petrosi.
Yes.
Contracts approved.
Thank you much. 411 Head Start and Early Head Start reports. Thank you, Nick. Rob, questions? Call the roll, please.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you.
Reports accepted.
Number 6, new business. We'll start with several meeting changes. These are for special meetings on April 11th. April 25th is 6:02, 6:03 May 8th, 6:04 May 16th, 6:05 June 20th, all of this year. Rob, thank you.
Second.
Tony, thank you. Any questions? Call the roll, please.
Mr. Bilson? Yes. Mrs. Dunn? Mr. Pareto?
Yes.
Mr. Velardo? Yes. Mr. Petrosi?
Yes.
Motion's carried.
I appreciate that. Thank you. 606 and 608 are in regards to our election. 606 is for the election inspectors. 607 is the alternate election inspectors. And 608 are machine custodians.
Move.
Thank you, Tony. Rob, second. Questions? Call the roll, please.
Mr. Bilson? Yes. Mrs. Dunn? Mr. Pareto?
Yes.
Mr. Velardo? Mr. Petrosi?
Yes.
Motion's carried.
Thank you. I just want to let everyone know we've been working on these items for the past month. I know it seems that we're going through them very quickly, but there's been much time, much effort, and a lot of work done into these items. 609 and 610 are contracts. 609 is for Dr. Philip Savaggio for Director of School Health Services, and number 6.10 is for Tel Consulting. Nick?
Second.
Tony, questions? Call the roll, please.
Mr. Bilson? Yes. Mrs. Dunn? Yes. Mr. Pareto?
Yes.
Mr. Velardo? Mr. Petrosi?
Yes.
Motion's carried.
Thank you. We'll take 611 and 612 together. 11 is Title I School Improvement Grant, and 6.12 is Title I Part A, Title IIA, and Title IV Part A. Rob on the motion, Mr. Nick on the second. Questions? Call the roll, please.
Mr. Bilson? Yes. Mrs. Dunn? Mr. Pareto?
Yes.
Mr. Velardo? Mr. Petrosi?
Yes.
Motion's carried.
Thank you. 613, approval of change order JC1-01, American Rescue Plan Capital Improvement Project. Rob, second. Tony, questions? Call the roll, please.
Mr. Bilson? Yes. Mrs. Dunn? Mr. Pareto?
Yes.
Mr. Velardo? Mr. Petrosi?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. I am going to put all of these payments to our capital project contractors, 6.14 to 6.23 together. 61.14, number 3 is to Danforth. 615 is number 8 to Brown and Stevie Brown and Associates. 6.16, number 9 to CIR. 617, payment number 1 to Scarfari. 6.18, payment number 1 to MKS Plumbing. 6.19, payment number 1 to Fry Electric. 6.20, payment number 1 to Star Tech. 6.21, payment number 1 to Greater Niagara Mechanical. 6.22, payment number 1 to John Danforth. And 6.23, payment number 1 again to John Danforth. Thank you.
Second.
Tony, motion was for Rob, second was for Tony. Call the roll, please.
Mr. Bilson? Yes. Mrs. Dunn? Mr. Pareto?
Yes.
Mr. Velardo? Mr. Petrosi?
Yes.
Motion's carried.
Thank you. 6.24 is the approval of continuation application for 24-25 Head Start and Early Head Start. Rob, second. Questions? Rob on the motion, Nick on the second. Any questions? Call the roll, please.
Mr. Bilson? Yes. Mrs. Dunn? Mr. Pareto?
Yes.
Mr. Velardo? Mr. Petrosi?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. We do not have any policy reviews tonight. I am going to move into the speakers section of the non-agenda items. Speakers, 3 minutes, please. We have 15 minutes allowed. If everyone sticks to the 3 minutes, we'll get most of them in, and I will allow the rest of them in. If you go over 3 minutes, I'll give you a 30-second warning at 2.5 minutes. At 3 minutes, I will ask you to stop. Otherwise, you will be cutting off the people at the bottom of the list. So please, respect the time to everyone. Okay, there is one person I do not have that I spoke of before, so at the end, the person I missed, please let me know. Okay, I'm going to speak. First speaker, Lisa Katniss on deck. Ashley Freiling, would you please make your way up? Lisa Katniss, please start. Name and address. If you're representing someone, please let us know. Time will start after you give us your information. I will give you a 30-second notice. You're up. Thank you.
My name's Lisa Katniss, and my address is 1134 Pasadena Avenue, Niagara Falls. And interestingly enough, when you ask who I'm here to represent, I would say I'm here to represent my kids, who are all here, and Holly Martin. So when I was putting my notes together for tonight, I really didn't know where to start because I realized I only have 3 minutes, and I feel like a lot of what I have to say should be more important than a 3-minute cap. And I realize in reading some of the information about the board that I probably won't get much response in what I'm gonna say, but I hope that I do. So to quickly start with the incident that occurred on March 6th, I can say when my kids came home from school and told me what happened with their teacher, I was confused, I was scared, and more importantly, I was mad. My first question was, why do we have an 18-year-old man wearing an ankle monitor walking the hallways as my kids who are in special ed and the kids that are in gen ed? It's disappointing to me that not only that he's walking or was walking the halls, but if Mrs. Martin wouldn't have been in the lunchroom that day watching her class eat, who knows what would have happened to that young lady. I don't know why we don't have an alternate school in our district. I understand the pathways for success, but I don't know if that's the right place to have kids that are struggling with behaviors to be in the building the same as my kids. I don't know about anybody on the board or over at the panel if any of your kids were there that day and had to see their favorite teacher have blood dripping down her face and get into an ambulance and go to ECMC. Fast forward to yesterday, 11:30, yet another fight at the high school. When you see the video and you can hear the kids screaming in the background, pushing and shoving, what may have started with 2 kids quickly escalated until a full brawl in the hallway. 30 minutes after that, another fight. When I hear about the fights after fights, it made me want to leave work yesterday and go pick up my kids. Even though my family and I have the utmost respect and we're so fortunate for the teachers in their extended program that they're the reason that I feel safe sending my kids to school every day. Knowing that they're in a lunchroom, sitting next to somebody that body slammed a young girl and their teacher leaving in an ambulance. I understand that there's 13 security guards at the high school and there's 2 SROs. I think based on a building of over 2,000 people, when you put 13 security officers and 2 SROs, that's 1 person for a ratio of about 140 people. It doesn't seem like it's an appropriate number when we have teachers getting injured and we have kids getting slammed on the floor.
Lisa, there's 3 minutes, but go ahead. Please sum up.
I understand where we are now. We can't change what's happened in the past, but my ask and my hope from the board and the administrators is that we try and fix the problem. We know we have a problem. We are all seeing it every day, but we need to do something to fix it. What does that look like? I would love to be able to help find that option, but what we're doing right now isn't working. I feel like we're catering a lot to the students that are abusing each other and the students that are abusing the teachers. And I really hope that we can get to a place where we have a plan and it's not just status quo. We'll hire another police officer, or we'll get another security guard. We need much more than that. And I hope that I'm reaching you and that it's not just, this is what we're dealing with at school, because I don't think anybody that's sitting here would want their spouse, their kids, their parents having to see what my kids and what these teachers have to do every day at school.
Thank you, Lisa. And Lisa, we don't respond as protocol, so I don't want you to feel a non-response is not we're concerned.
Mr. Petrosi?
Yes, sir.
Would you grant me the ability to respond when all of the speakers are concluded, though?
Yes, I would do that. Thank you.
Okay.
You're my pleasure.
Okay, I'll respond at the conclusion of, I think there's 7, 8, 9 speakers. I will respond and try to address some of that.
I appreciate that, and I hope that we can get to a place where we're addressing it together at a table and making progress and not feeling like we have a barrier in between us. So I'm gonna turn it over to my daughter, who has the exact same address as I do.
Okay, Ashley. Michael Barksdale, you're on deck. Please make your way up front. You're up, Ashley. Thank you.
For my teacher, Holly Martin, I had like a lot of stuff to say. So when I see the fight in my lunchroom, it like broke my heart and stuff. Like see her like blood, her glasses off and stuff. And every time me and my sister have like a problem, like we can go to her and talk to her about a lot of stuff. And she really loves us and care for us, and we love her a lot. And only one thing we need at our school is like check our backs when except the red light go off. They should check our back like every single day. Like green or red, check it. Yep.
Thank you, Ashley. Michael Barksdale, please.
Good evening, esteemed board members, superintendent, administrators. My name is Michael Barksdale. I reside 22nd Street in Independence. Here to speak on behalf of Niagara Community Education Group. Since last I was before you, we had a meeting, and the theme of the meeting was Let Freedom Read, creating a plan to help our children learn how to read. Our core team consists of Dr. Tina Schultz, Deborah Hicks, Jeffrey Elder, Trent Hamilton, Lawrence Blaber, and Jackie Blaber, and myself. We started a campaign to sound the alarm that comes from where in our community we ask the question, how long are we going to cry oppression and do not do anything to change that? I believe in what Dr. Tina Schultz often says, you can't just talk about it, you gotta be about it. And also to quote Frederick Douglass, once you learn to read, you'll be forever free. And again, speaking on behalf of our community. Some of the updates since January, NSEG, Niagara Community Education Group, met with Mr. Kareem Weaver, Western New York Education Alliance, and the City School District of the City of Niagara Falls on February 13th. Mr. Weaver strongly recommended someone from the district attend the Seaford Structured Literacy Learning Walk in Seaford, Delaware. Dr. Tina Schultz took the initiative and volunteered to attend this literacy walk. Following that, NSEG met with the community members to discuss the outcome of its meeting with Mr. Weaver and Western New York Education Alliance and the district. Dr. Schultz presented a brief debrief on the literacy learning walk in Seaford to our core team. Additional updates, the NSEG core team will be meeting with the authors of the Western New York Education Alliance 2022-2023 Western New York Reading Report Card. The troubling thing about in that report, it lists that Niagara Falls, the children are only reading, the 3rd to 5th grade students are only reading, 19% are reading at level. 19%, that means 2 out of 10 children are reading a level based on these state statistics. Again, when we meet with the authors of the report, we will be following up with the community to make them aware of where we're at. That's all.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Dr. Tina Schultz, Lawrence Blaber, would you make your way up, please? Blaber. Thank you, sir, for correcting me.
I'm Dr. Tina Schultz. I live at Candlewood Drive in Lockport. I'm here on behalf of the Niagara Community Education Group. I'm here on behalf of my children and grandchildren that are educated in this district. I'm here basically to follow up and let you know what was going on with me and my visit at Seaford, Delaware. As far as Kareem Weaver is concerned, he invited the district. I took him up on that invite since there was an opening. And Seaford is a school district in Delaware that has the same demographics, similar demographics of Niagara Falls. Poverty level, students of color, they were at the bottom rung when it came to literacy and student achievement. They did something, they incorporated the science of reading, and they moved from the bottom rung within 2 years to the top, to the point where everyone is interested in what's going on in Seaford. We have people, when I went there for a 3-day visit, a literacy walk, there were 45 people from all over the country that came to see what was going on at Seaford. Very simple strategies, very consistent, very structured, and not expensive. Why didn't we go see? I went and saw every classroom, extremely amazing. They were in crisis, we are in crisis, and we need to say that in this district. We have only 2 children out of 10 are reading at proficiency levels. That's not okay, and that's according to the Western New York Reading Report Card that was distributed about 3-4 weeks ago. Every education leader in this Western New York and upstate received that report. We have to say out loud, we are in crisis. If we make progress, great. We are still in crisis. Because we are making strides in getting children in Tier 1, we are still in crises. We are still in crises. We cannot blame COVID because Seaford went through COVID just like we did, and they are excelling. So is every other district that is doing the science of reading. We are in crisis. We need to do something about it. We don't need to keep complaining. We need to do something about it. We need to be about it. We are in crises. Mississippi, during COVID, they were the only district in Mississippi, one, I can't remember the name, that moved forward, made great strides during COVID because they were one of the first districts to institute the science of reading. We are in crises. We need to do something besides say we are making progress. We can do better. We can do better. We can do more. So we have to get rid of these things like balanced literacy, excuse me, Fountas and Pinnell. Roll that out, guided reading recovery, all these things which are going to be displaced because we are going to be mandated to adopt the science of reading by fall of 2025. We are in the spring of 2024. What is the plan? We
Doctor,
need,
that's 3.5 minutes. Please sum
Okay.
up. Thank you.
We need to have to hear from the district, what is the plan? What is the plan? The community wants to know, parents want to know. We want to help. We want to be a part of moving forward. We don't want to sit and wait. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. Mr. Blaber, you're up with Tony Kelly on deck. I just announced you're up. Tony Kelly's on deck.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
All right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Lawrence Blaber, 38th Street in Pine, Niagara Falls. I'm going to follow up on Dr. Tina and Mr. Barksdale's point, but my specialization is in strategic implementation and implementation planning. I've worked for manufacturers dealing with projects as the new New York Times building and One World Trade Center. So I'm speaking to you from that viewpoint. I saw the presentation earlier, and test scores are going up and stuff, and that's great, but as I've been taught, better never stops. Good is not great, great is not outstanding, and outstanding is not perfect. And with that in mind, this progress is good, but as we've heard, we've got a deadline coming from our good friend Governor Hochul of October of next year, and we have to be prepared. The train has left the station, okay? And we have to understand, implementation of this level takes 12 months if it's perfect, 24 months if it's bad, but you still get it done. We're at about 18 months right now, and we have to really start figuring out what we're doing. And this kind of level of implementation is literally what I call brain breaking. You're literally redefining how we're trying to do things. It's like taking a basketball player that's used to a 2-3 zone into a man-to-man. You're going from the option offense to a 3-receiver set. You're going to do things totally different from the way you know it and understand it to be. Okay, it's like if I took you guys out to play some soccer and figure out how to win the game. That is the level that we're going at. And as I mentioned earlier, the train has left the station. I don't understand or know how much professional development you guys do, but if you want to know, I'll give you my card. There are actually people helping fund these moves behind the scenes. And I'm not saying it like nefarious, but New York State is the third group of states. They started with Mississippi because Mississippi has one of the most lax teacher laws, okay, to move it in there. They've moved on. So they're coming for New York State. It's getting to a get down or lay down situation. So you guys have to be aware of that. Now, with that, as I said, you have to understand industry things, and we have to change. I'm a realtor. Everybody's hearing about all the changes in real estate and commission, and you have to be prepared for these things. And I think you guys really have to start finding out what is happening, why it's happening, and we have to work to be at the front of the line, because that's the other thing in these kinds of changes. If you wait till the cake is already baked and get the recipe, there's not enough grant funding, because everybody's already taken it. You have to be willing to run up and be in the front, take the risk of making mistakes, and they'll give you more money because you're willing to be the guinea pig for these kinds of big changes. And the tangential benefits of these kinds of things is, we're talking budget shortfalls. Here's what I know. When you're number one, people always want to be with a winner. You want to raise taxes when you're number one, people have no problem with that. You want people to move in there, move here, that'll help budget shortfalls. You know how I know that? Because in real estate, when Star Point was number one, everybody wanted a house in Star Point. Niagara Wheatfield is number one, everybody wants a house in Wheatfield now. So we've got that going on. And then,
Please sum up when you have a moment, sir.
this helps everybody on every level. It's all connected. We're talking about school violence. A lot of things are taken out when you apply this program because you resolve learning disabilities, and about 40% of the people in Rikers are learning disabilities if we take this program. The train is coming. We have to be prepared, or else we're going to be last. Thank you.
Thank you, appreciate your time. Tony Kelly, and that's, if I pronounce this, I think it's Delon Gibbs is next. Please forgive me if I mispronounced it.
Hey, my name is Tony Kelly, President of Men Standing Strong. Good evening. I want to speak about the importance of men being in schools. As a black man, it is a sense of security for black children to see me. I volunteer at Abbott and got a chance to speak with other students in a positive way. Many of our children have male role models in the home. As a black man, I feel it is my obligation to help guide a child in the right direction. I have men in my life who were mentors and taught me respect. That is the important thing of a child should learn and that is respect. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Tony. Delon, did I pronounce that correct? Gibbs? And you can straighten me out if you would. And Mrs. Dolson is next.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
Good evening, sir.
Of the board panel. I'm Deacon Gibbs. I live at 2113 Ferry Avenue here in the city of Niagara Falls. And I'll be brief. You know, I noticed when that first lady that spoke, you know, hitting right on a couple of things I want to talk about. And I'll bring that into play in just a moment. But my concern is for the children as well as the parents and teachers in the schools today. And I am a part of Men Standing Strong Together. And we were in the schools in the year 21, 22, and 23, but were not asked to come back into the schools, whereas we made a great impact on the children, the teachers, and the parents as far as keeping the kids. I noticed she said that they were fighting in the halls and in the classrooms. So Men Standing Strong, this is what we want to do. We want to get back into the schools, or if you guys allow us to get back into the schools to make a difference, to put a stop to some of the violence and things that's going on. They really did make a great impact when they were in the schools. And my question is for the board is it possible that you can again allow Men Standing Strong to go back into the schools, specifically the elementary school, as well as the high school, and make a difference, make a positive difference in the children behaving themselves, because they see adults, you know, in the schools, in the hallways, in the lunchroom, where a lot of this stuff takes place. So I'm hoping that the board will consider allowing us to do that, to get back into the schools and to make a great difference in the impact on the children, as well as the community, and be a help to the teachers in the schools. Thank you.
Thank you, Delon. We appreciate your time. Mrs. Dolson, how are you?
Oh, my God.
Welcome.
I was waiting for smoke machines and a band. I didn't even see it.
How are you? Are you?
First of all, I just want to thank you all for your prayers. See, that's what prayer do.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm doing real good.
We were praying for you.
Praise
Thank you.
so much.
Good to see you.
And good evening. God bless. It is an honor to speak to each of you on behalf of our children. As Deacon supposedly pointed out, that we're not here to point fingers, but to suggest well-founded solutions to an overwhelming crisis, and that is one being absentee. Another is tardiness, and more serious problem, it is being able to read. We believe it can start in elementary school, getting a handle on the situation before it gets out of hand. Smaller class sizes is the key. No one can dispute small class creates a stronger teacher and student relationship. It gives teachers the time needed to get to know their students and better identify strengths and weaknesses. In smaller classes, teachers are better equipped to provide individualized attention, especially in kindergarten, when your child is just starting to learn. They need all the help they can get. And parents do want the best educational possible, realizing children, when they're young, they are easily distracted. It is quite common for private schools to have a small class size with a student to teacher ratio of 12:1. Teachers can tailor their teaching methods to better suit each child's needs. In a larger class, it's simply not possible. For the teacher is to give each child the same level of attention. This can be the beginning of a child's failure. In all communities, there are professionals who would be more than happy to volunteer in the classrooms with young children. Another behavior to look at is suspension. Can we say suspension has a positive effect on students? It most likely has a negative impact on academic development and increases the likelihood of dropping out of school and the possibility of ending up in the legal system. Suspension affects the child's future. Let us talk as a community and as educators of a more effective and better method to achieve a positive outcome for students. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gloria, and good to see you. There is one person that signed up that I did not call. Who might you be? Come on down. Please state your name and address, and my apologies, I couldn't read your writing.
My name is Helen Coleman. I reside at 1502 South here in Niagara Falls.
Now I do see that, thank you.
We will have great concern to me and Standing Strong together about the children that's been expelled, whatever, from school. There's different programs that they're supposed to be attending. I guess one is at Fresh Start on 16th and Western Avenue, and I guess they're not attending there. And then the Memorial Center on Highland Avenue, they're not attending there. So we're wondering if there's supposed to be somebody that's monitoring these children and making sure that they are at the place they're supposed to be. What's going on with them? I just only had a few questions. We don't know what's happening to the children. They're not attending these programs.
I'm sure Mr. Laurie will address you or get back to you.
Pardon me?
Mr. Laurie, I'm sure Mr. Laurie will address that or get back to you.
Okay, because sometimes they're in the park playing basketball. So I was just wondering if there was somebody that was monitoring their whereabouts and making sure that they are where they're supposed to be. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Laurie, would you like to possibly address some of those questions?
I'm going to do my best to address in a comprehensive manner the speakers. I wanted to begin, I know we're not supposed to vote, but I thought Ashley was the best speaker. Ashley, way to go. Congratulations. So, yeah, I thought you're the best speaker, Ashley. The most difficult, for many people, the greatest fear that they have is public speaking. I can't do anything else, but I just like to talk a lot. So I thought you did a really, really, really good job, Ashley. Really good job. And feel free to come anytime to speak. Secondly, I'm really glad that our representative to NSBA, Mr. Lowry, who's sitting in the front row, he represents our area with the school board. What I particularly liked that he saw was that this is the decorum that our speakers bring to us. They don't agree with us all the time. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. But I just want to impress upon those that are watching and you who are from Erie County and go to Albany, this is the decorum and the tone and the way people communicate. And again, sometimes we can agree, sometimes we don't, but I'm really pleased because for not just Ashley, because she's learned it, but there's some other students that watch this and they see how to function appropriately in a civic governmental situation. So that's the first thing I wanted to say. Secondly, Ms. Freiling, and Ashley, I want to thank you for coming forth and speaking. Your history with this school district has been nothing but one of support and involvement and guidance and question asking, which is what we expect. It makes us better. So we appreciate that, and you're welcome. Of course, everybody's welcome all the time, but I think that the solutions that you're looking for and that the solutions to the reading issue that we heard about and suspensions that we heard about is right with what you said. It can't be done just with me making 8 things that we're going to do. It's got to come to a table where everybody sits together and talks about things. And that includes all the stakeholders, right? That includes the administrators, that includes the teachers, that includes parents, that includes community members. So that's the first thing that I think that we have to do. We have to have those meetings. Secondly, I'll start with a negative and then try to move to some forward-thinking responses to your queries. Not only did we have a couple of fights this week and last week, as you pointed out, but this week, in two different instances, we had parents fighting. Parents fighting outside of one of our elementary schools. It happened to be a primary school. As they dropped their children off in front of 423 kids, 2 parents were fighting. Today, we had a parent attempt to board a bus and fight a bus driver. This culture of solving things through fighting is so disheartening and so frustrating and so sad. And that's why everybody's got to work together and everybody has to be involved in resolving the problem. And that kind of behavior on the part of adults is certainly so far from what we expect. Now, I like to say and think that sometimes that's the less than 1%, but the 1% are what get the attention, get the eyes, and certainly do some very serious damage. I want to again offer my sincere apologies to not only the teacher you mentioned, but the other teachers through the years that have been injured. We said this last week, and I certainly, I know that when teachers go through their training, getting hurt at a school is not what's taught, not what's expected, and not why teachers go into this. I do appreciate the fact that our teachers step forward and try to protect kids the best way they can, but that's not why they go into the situation. So just off the cuff, because I wasn't exactly sure where you were going to before you came, I agree. We have to sit at a table, and I think it's a really good time right now, because after tomorrow we're going to go on the longest break that we've ever had because of eclipse, except for the summer. And what a perfect time to finish the school year strong, have a strong last 10 weeks. So I know there are a couple of things that we need to study and look at. And I heard your concern about the alternative school. Again, this is something I'd like to talk about it, but I think there are a couple of levels. There's school for those that want to be there and want to do the right thing. And then by kids who make choices that aren't in line with that, they've made a choice to give up that authority to myself and the Board of Education, and we have to educate them. But we educate them in a place where it's more suitable to the behaviors that they chose. So while we have a Pathways program, and while we've had some community outreach sites, I think we even have to have a different tier. And I think that's a tier of education outside of the Pathways program, the regular school, and I have some ideas, and we'll be bringing those forth when we all meet. Next, don't want teachers to get hurt. I don't want staff to get hurt. We're putting together a situational assessment and training program, and a simulation training program for the teachers. We'll start at Niagara Falls High School. We'll do them in groups of 30. We've already got the date selected for them. For those trainings, they are going to train staff, teachers, how to maximize their personal safety in any situation while de-escalating to the best of their ability. We'll do that with a certified trainer, and that will happen in April and May of this school year, and will come to the board as a short-term contract. I think we have to really drill down to look at the small things. The small things add up to the big things. The small things like dress code, the small things like language. You know, I think that we have to pay attention to those things. Now, those don't always turn into fights, but those turn into a citizen that we don't want created and leaving the school. We have to look at traffic patterns, floor pathways. We have to look at, you mentioned the number of staff. Tend to think it's a good number if we need more, or if we need to redeploy them in a different way. I think we need to look at all of those things and many more that I can't think of right now, but when we put our heads together and develop some synergy, we can. So I'm going to call upon the high school administrators, who many of them are here tonight, and I thank them for being here, to be part of that solution with parents and the community and the teachers. So I appreciate you coming forth. I want you to know, and this isn't patronizing talk, your involvement has led to good changes in our special needs programs, and I want to segue into Mr. Blaber and his wife, and you were there the other day. Mr. Blaber and your wife, I want to just say congratulations and thank you. On Monday evening, we had our first special needs parent group meeting. 22 parents came, facilitated by Mr. Blaber's wife, who I'll give all the credit to. And we had a really great meeting. And I just wanted to call and compliment your wife out on that, and you a little bit. But the point is, we have to bring people together. And again, I'm not gonna go through all the solutions, but I want to acknowledge those are some of the things that were running through my head as you're talking. And a lot of them don't cost anything more than the will and the stamina to do the right thing. Those aren't high cost things. Will, stamina, presence. So I appreciate that, and it was heard. Next, I appreciate, first of all, Mr. Barksdale. I owe him an apology. I believe he was on the 1967? Oh, I knew it was 87. Mr. Barksdale, last week we talked about the basketball team. You were on the 1987 Trot basketball team that won a state championship. And I forgot to mention that about you, but congratulations. I really appreciate how you always come and present to the team, the team of Barksdale, Schultz, Blaber, and others. The only thing I would we'll be ready. The only thing I would ask is that you continue to invite us and involve us. We want the same thing. And I like what you said, Mr. Blaber. Good isn't enough. Great isn't there. Perfect what we're aspiring to. There's only one way to do that, and that's to do it together. I do know one thing. Our teachers work very hard. Our teachers work very hard. I also know that the governor, and who knows what's going to happen with the budget, has promised to give the New York State Teachers Association, NYSET, New York State United Teachers, money for staff development and training in the science of reading, and we will continue to work with our union to ascertain as much of that money as we can, because you're right, there is money available that isn't coming out of that budget we talked about, and we got to go after it. But we got to go after it together. We got to go after it together. If we're at odds, and I'm not saying we are, we're not going to get very far. Mr. Kelly, I want to thank you for being a role model all the time that we see you, and Deacon Gibbs, I think you offered some good possibilities, and I always appreciate the amount of time you come into the schools and want to play chess. Maybe you could teach me sometime. It's an interesting game, and I know you're very good at it. And I know you've spent some time with our kids and have asked to spend time with more. Ms. Coleman, I will never lie to you. I don't know enough, and I have to research the alternate sites. I will promise on the 11th when I come back, I'll have a report. If they're not going good, I'll say they're not going good. We got to do something different. It may tie into that our first speaker. I just don't have enough information in front of me right now to answer you. And I'm not going to make it up and lie to you. I'm just going to research it. But I will, on the 11th of April, I'll present to you what I know, who, how many, why or why not, or whether we should continue it. Gloria, it's, you worry me because we need you, and I'm glad you're here, and I'm appreciative of the movie night that you're going to have for kids and your patience, but I just want you to take care of yourself, please. You're a huge part of this district and always have been, so just all I'm saying to you is take care of yourself. The students and parents and teachers, I apologize. We need to sit together. We need to work together. I know the team will, but we need to pull everybody in to get this resolved, and we've got to have the strongest and best 11 weeks to finish the year that we can. Perfect time to reset. Perfect time to say, you know what, today is the first day of school on April 9th. Here's what we expect. Here's what's going to happen. I just think it's so opportune. And when situations come up, we're going to be able to respond to them. Sorry, I didn't mean to ramble. I did want to address it to the best of my ability at this time. A lot more work needs to be done, but I appreciate you coming to speak. Most importantly, I appreciate Ashley. And then I'll segue into the fact that when Ashley, your brother DeAndre, was at Antonio's yesterday with the teachers, everybody else had chicken and he had steak. And I don't understand how that happened, DeAndre. I don't understand, Ashley, how DeAndre, well, let me just tell you what I'm talking about so I'm not talking in code. Our teachers, I know I saw 3 or 4 of them there yesterday, took our kids out for an etiquette dinner at Antonio's. And when I walked in, aside from all of them yelling, Mark Laurie, which they love to do, they all were dressed so sharply with napkins in their laps, speaking in a conversational tone, using their silverware appropriately, and acting like they were at a formal dinner. You know, we teach a lot in school, and we've got to teach about reading. Don't misunderstand me. But the teachers that were with them were teaching them how to be young men and young ladies in the most appropriate way. So congratulations to the teachers. And the next time, DeAndre, I'd like to be invited for the steak, okay? All right? I know you had turkey. I know you're going to tell me you had turkey. That's all right. All right. Couple of other things. Congratulations to our Wolverine basketball team. They really had a great year. Getting back to the States, I feel, is going to be an annual event. And I want to thank Coach Bradbury and all of the coaches for their great job making it an exciting year. Way to go, boys basketball team. We're in full spring sports mode. So Bilson, softball, let's go. We're ready, girls softball. We've got some track, we've got some runners. We've got a softball team that is good. They don't bowl now, Nick. I think they shut the lanes down. First of all, Mr. Bass isn't here. Mr. Bass is actually watching. Mr. Bass is in Georgia with 20 students. He accompanied a couple chaperones on the historically black college tour. The board flew those students and chaperones to Georgia. They visited 4 colleges. Mr. Bass is not here because he is chaperoning. He has done this traditionally. The teachers that are with them, Ms. Crumpton, Ms. Cowart, but most importantly, Mr. Bass, if one of the kids wants to get into a college down there and the admissions counselor is giving any of them a hard time, he asserts his authority and usually can turn the tide. So I'm glad Mr. Bass is down there. I wish safe travels in return tomorrow to the HBC students. I wish safe travels to the 10 students and 2 teachers who are leaving for Ghana tomorrow, Ghana, Africa, tomorrow. I wish safe travels to the Spanish club that is going to Puerto Rico. That's over 40 students just in the last month that are leaving the city to go out and experience the world. I want to say break a leg, because it's happening right now, to the cast of Hello Dolly. Our drama team is putting on Hello Dolly tonight, tomorrow, Saturday at 1 and Sunday at 7. So if you're listening, if you're here, we love the support of our kids in drama, whether it's basketball, cooking, drama. There should be something in a school for everyone, and you're going to see kids behind the curtain and in front of the curtain. So break a leg, Hello Dolly. I did mention the special education parent group that Miss Blaber, Mr. Blaber, and others have formulated. We're here for your support too. I know that'll get going. They need to have 2 more meetings before they can officially be chartered. But what I really appreciated, aside from that, is something that Mrs. Blaber said, and it kind of was the tone of our speakers. We're not here with pitchforks to get anybody. We're here to make things better. And that was the statement that stuck with me for the rest of the night and the rest of the week and in our team. April the 8th, there is no school. It is Eclipse Day. I know tomorrow in school there's Eclipse parties and Eclipse events going on. We distributed glasses courtesy of the library and the Friends of the Library. I think we have a few pairs left for kids. Please, everybody, be safe when you're watching the eclipse. Be safe when you're around the city for traffic and visitors. There is no school. This year what we did is we arranged it so we wouldn't have that many snow days, so we could use the 8th as a snow day. And that's what that is. Finally, as I wrap this up, we had a good board meeting. Mr. Wonten accompanied me to meet the board of directors for Say Yes Buffalo. And I spoke to David Rust, the gentleman who presented to you, and he told me this afternoon, let's stop saying if it comes, it's coming to Niagara Falls, and that is more courses in apprenticeships, more courses for men and boys of color, that's more Saturday academies, and that is going to be last dollars into college. And we'll use next year as our planning year and kick it off in 26. So I'm proud to tell you that Say Yes is going to expand to Niagara Falls as their first expansion site, and it's really an honor. In conclusion, I will reinforce what has to be said before anything, and take this the right way, please, even before academics. We have to be safe in our schools. We have to be safe in our schools. You have to be safe by doing the little things continuously, and it takes a heck of a lot of stamina, and it takes help from the outside, whether it be the community, the parents, and of course it needs the teachers and the administration. I think we've got some work cut out for us. It's not insurmountable. It's just work that we are capable of doing. And what I will say, no matter what budget situation we're in, the members of this board have never said no to safety or never said no to support. So I know they'll prioritize that if we come back and ask for it. But I do believe, and this is not a budget statement because you heard about the budget, I do believe there are things that we can do that don't cost a lot of money. And I know the hearts and minds of the administrators at the high school, and no one gets up and says, let's make this unsafe. They'll do whatever it takes. I know that, and I know that's in the hearts and the minds of the teachers too. So I've spoken too long, but you agree, yeah, I know, and wait till Mr. Villardo gets a chance to talk about me. Oh, I got a 3-minute limit too, but
Please sum up, Mr.
All right, I will. I just think it's important, whether you think it's rhetoric or whatever, it's not. I think it's important when people take the time to come out of their day and come to the podium, that they should get some response. You may not have liked my response. You might not have thought it was far enough, but I think I owe that to the people. We owe that to the people who speak. And I'm proud of the way we conduct business. So with that, I'll say happy recess. I know we're in the middle of Ramadan. I know we're in the middle of different religious celebrations. Let's all take these next 2 weeks to pause, rest, refresh, be safe, but come back ready to reset. And we'll do some work over the time. And like I said, be thankful, all right? Be thankful, be thankful. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. We'll be done in just a minute. I'm going to go around the table. Clara?
Just one comment to the, well, I appreciate all the speakers coming and voicing their concern, because me as a board member, a resident in the city of Niagara Falls, I'm concerned about everything they spoke about. But Miss Cantonese and your children, I appreciate you coming and letting us know how you feel. I feel your pain, I feel your concern, and not only as a board member, but again, as a grandmother, a resident, the city of Niagara Falls, because we want not just our schools to be safe, we want the city of Niagara Falls to be safe. And, you know, to understand you is because I have a grandson in Niagara Falls High School, and every day I pick him up, and the first thing he do when he get in the car is say, "Nana, look at this." And it's a video of a kid fighting. So my grandson is a busybody, and I always ask him, "How did you get this? Were you in the wrong place?" But it's social media. He says he gets it from Snapchat. I'm not familiar with all these things. So social media plays a very big role in how our children are behaving and how they get information. But I do feel your pain. I'm concerned about it. And as Mr. Laurie said, I'm just going to speak for me, but I know how other board members feel. None of us feel like, we don't care about what we're hearing. We do. But like Mr. Laurie said, and I say this every time I go to a community meeting, when people come to me ready to rip my head off about what are you doing about fighting, my response is we all have to work together. And this community seems to lack that. So as I said in my prayer, and I pray every day, that God brings the community of Niagara Falls, black and white, students, parents, everybody together. Thank you, and I understand your concern.
Thank you, Clara. Tony?
One thing I have to say, Mrs. Dunn, you've done a great job today. You have very eloquently and forceful said a lot of stuff that's going through all of our heads. My kids are graduated, but they did go through that high school, and it's very important. I coach, for this high school, and I don't want to see that either. People come up to me at work. I work at the city, and they go, "Hey, what's this?" So I see that stuff too. And there's nothing more important than the security of our students, faculty, employees. We will calm this down, and we'll have to do what we have to do to get peace in that school. And we will get to the bottom of it. And hopefully we can reset, I'm hoping. But yeah, nobody wants to see that kind of violence. And of course, we're not the only school to see it. If you watch the news today, man, some of our surrounding districts, which I will leave nameless, are making the news also. And as amazing as that is, they're praying and hoping for what we already have, which is police in the school. So, if you've seen that article on some of the news channels, I did. I take note of all that stuff. But again, no matter what happens to this budget, we will make sure that we can keep people safe. And again, congratulations to our Wolverines basketball team for having such a good season, and and we're kicking off our spring sports. And hopefully safe travels for our friends that are going to Ghana, coming home from Georgia, and everybody that might be going on vacation, safe travels to everybody, and God bless.
Thanks, Tony. Rob?
First, thanks to Claire's point. Thank you to everyone that spoke tonight. I think all very important topics. Thanks to Mr. Laurie and Becky for all the work that you've put into the budget and continue to put in to make sure that we're on the right track and doing all that we can do. I do want to address Ms. Katniss. Thank you for coming up and speaking to us. You said two things. One, I think, was a question about, what connection that we might have to the schools. I will say, in addition to Ms. Dunn, all 5 of my kids go to school here in the district. My daughter goes to the high school. She's a freshman. So, I'm very aware of what happens on a daily basis. I'm always interested in the good and the bad and trying to figure out ways as a parent that I can, listen and figure out ways that I can help as a parent, but also help as a board member. And I can assure you, as a parent of students in elementary, middle school, and high school, that Mr. Laurie and this board are very attentive and focused on making sure that we're doing everything that we can, not only to do all of the great things that Mr. Laurie speaks about from a staff and curriculum standpoint, but safety is of the utmost importance. And everyone needs to know that we're focused on that, and it's very important to us. Ashley, great job speaking. Let me listen to me. I'm babbling. It's very hard to speak in front of people. You did a great job. But I also want to tell you, I'm sorry that you had to see what you saw, and that's unfortunate for everyone involved. But we're going to do our best to make sure that that doesn't happen again. And we appreciate you letting us know how you feel about it, and sorry that it happened. To Ms. Dunn's point, whether it's literacy, whether it's, fighting in schools, look, we're in a really interesting time now. I mean, you go back to when I was in high school in 1992, 3, 4, 5, maybe it was the 2000s, depending on how young I want to be today. I mean, there were fights when I was in school, right? And kids, it's very tough to be a young adult. It's very tough, very, very tough. It was tough for me. It's tough for my kids, and especially nowadays, not to go on a soapbox, but I agree with Ms. Dunn. As a parent of 5 kids, social media is just really a double-edged sword, because the world is changing, whether it's AI or Instagram, Snapchat, Facebook. It's tough to be a parent nowadays. It's tough to be aware every minute, every day of what your kids are seeing and being exposed to. But I will say it's horrific as a parent and as anyone to, how many times have you been in bed at night scrolling through reels on Facebook? And we should not be seeing people fighting every second. And these social media companies just present all of this to us, and it's just not healthy, right? I mean, you shouldn't be seeing fight after fight or car accident after car accident, or just go down the list of things that we should not be exposed to as adults, let alone children. And the biggest question is, what can we do about that, right? Because it's only going to be more prevalent as technology advances. But I can say that I'm confident that all of you are wonderful parents. We have a wonderful community, and we're all trying to do the best that we can to keep our kids safe, to keep ourselves, where we need to be. And it's going to be a tough road, but we'll figure it out together. And we're here for you, and we appreciate you. And I hope you all have a safe and wonderful vacation and Easter. And with that, I will turn back over to Russ.
Thanks, Rob. Nick?
Well, on the point, I don't want to be repetitive, but I do agree with my fellow board members on all the subjects that were spoken tonight. But I had the pleasure of speaking, having a meeting with Mrs. Dolson last week. And we talked about many subjects concerning the children in our school district. And one of the things is a reading program, where we talked about reading. Kids have to learn how to read better and be more proficient. And I brought up the point of talking about that parents should take more active role and read with their children every night or on a daily basis. And Mrs. Dolson brought up the point that some of the parents may not know how to read to their children and perpetuate the joy of reading. So we came up with an idea, and I'm going to ask Mr. Laurie to look into it and to instill this program, is to have an adult reading program for our students' parents. So anybody an adult that doesn't know how to read or is not proficient in reading can attend these classes and help their children in the long run, and it might benefit them, in their scholastics, and maybe calm down some of the stuff that's going on in the schools. Because children will act out if they're not being able to pick up the material or falling behind. So I think, Mr. Laurie, we talked about it, and he kind of agrees with it, so we'll see if we can work something out. I hope we can, and I'm pretty sure we will. So as we have classes for, community college classes for adults in our district held at the Bond, so we can probably do the same thing for adults, for a reading program. Thank you, and having a joyous Easter and good vacations. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. It's all been said, so I will be very brief, 30 seconds. Thank you, everyone, for coming. Thank you, speakers. Thank you, Sophia, for the pledge to the flag. Thank you, Ashley, for your public speaking, for all your hard work. You can all have Monday off. Lisa and Ashley, please see me before you leave, if you don't mind for a minute. Safety is first in this district. We've spent millions of dollars and countless hours, and we will spend more money. We will spend more hours. We will make this district safe. It's number one. And with your help, it will get better quicker, sooner, and we will make it the safest district that it will ever be. I appreciate that. I need your help. We all need your help and would appreciate your help. Saying that, we're going to adjourn this meeting this evening, and some fine people that are no longer with us. Helen Mann, who's a retired teacher, Mildred Meckes, a retired teacher, and Ainsley Claire Gorman, a Lockport alumna. Saying that, motion for adjournment, please. Nick, Rob, all in favor?
Aye.
Good night, everybody. Thank you for your attendance. Thank you for your comments.